Before today's video, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on the latest videos. If you want to see a case or topic covered by Paranormally Listed, then go to criminallylisted.com and fill out the questionnaire under the Suggest a Case tab. Number 3. The Centerfold Curse. In January 1986, the football team for the University of Iowa, the Hawkeyes, were invited to Hugh Hefner's Playboy Mansion in Hollywood on the day after the Rose Bowl. But the visit wasn't a celebration because during the game, the Hawkeyes got crushed by the UCLA Bruins. Oddly, this has happened to a sports team invited to frolic in the famed waterfall grotto. The year before, baseball's St. Louis Cardinals dropped by the mansion before promptly losing the World Series. And the year before that, the team from the University at Illinois got beat by UCLA in the Rose Bowl after a similar invitation from Hef. As Hefner himself said in 1986, there may be a curse here. Yet, while it's true there may be a curse involving Playboy, it has nothing to do with sports. In fact, it's far more deadly, because Playboy's Playmate models seem to die unexpectedly and young at an alarming rate. The most recent victim of the curse may be model Ashley Mattingly. She took her own life in 2020 at the age of 33. There have been a handful of Playmate suicides in the magazine's 69-year history. The 1958 Playmate, Cheryl Kubert, died by suicide in 1989 at age 51. As did 1964 cover girl Ashlyn Martin in 1991 when she was only 45. In 1974, 30-year-old Paige Young killed herself with a gun. As did 1981 model Debbie Boostrom in 2008 at age 53. Disease has also taken its toll, with at least 13 models succumbing to everything from cancer to colon blockages to asthma attacks. Car accidents also call Playboy alumni too, it seems. The most famous example is that of Jane Mansfield, who appeared in Playboy in 1955 and was killed in her car wreck 12 years later at only 34. Her 3-year-old daughter, Mariska Hargitay, would go on to TV stardom in Law & Order SVU. For years, rumors swirled that Mansfield had been decapitated in the wreck, which saw her car veer underneath a semi-truck. But that rumor turned out to be untrue. The Undertaker later said her head was attached as much as mine is. An accident of another kind ended the life of Eve Mayer, a Playmate from 1955. She was one of the 550 people who perished in the Tenerife disaster, a runaway collision between two passenger jets in the Canary Islands in 1977. 8 years later, model and actress Carol Wayne, who regularly appeared in the popular Art Fern's Tea Time movie sketches on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, died by drowning in a mysterious incident that some still call suspicious. She was only 42 years old. The March 1967 issue of Playboy perhaps holds the distinction of being particularly cursed. That issue featured Fran Gerard, who appeared in the Miss March centerfold wearing glasses, a first for the magazine. Gerard died in 1985 at 37 under mysterious circumstances, with some speculating murder, while others insinuating it was suicide. Also in the March 1967 issue was a photo spread featuring actress Sharon Tate, who would be murdered by the Manson family only 2 years later. There were other Playmate murders as well. Dorothy Stratton was only 20 when she was shot and killed by her boyfriend in a jealous rage involving director Peter Bogdanovich. Her story was later made into 2 movies, one being Star 80 with actress Meryl Hemingway, who perhaps knows something about curses. The suicide of her grandfather, Ernest Hemingway, in 1961 kicked off what some call the Hemingway Curse. In 1997, Star Stowe, who posed for Playboy 20 years earlier, was found in some bushes behind a pharmacy in Coral Springs, Florida. She had been strangled, and her death is linked to the work of a Florida serial killer. As of 2022, the killer has not been caught. Perhaps the most frequent Playboy model COD is OD. At least 7 women have found their end as the result of overdoses. 1992 Centerfold Anna Nicole Smith was only 39 when she overdosed on sleeping pills in 2007, leaving her 5-month-old daughter behind. Between 1953 and 2015, there were 739 women who appeared in Playboy's infamous Centerfold spread. Of those, 39 women all met untimely deaths, all before the age of 55. That's about a 5% mortality rate. So, what the hell is going on with Playboy Playmates? The answer may lie in the story behind the first death of a Playboy subject. The overdose, or was it murder, of Marilyn Monroe in 1862 when she was only 32. Monroe appeared in the magazine's very first issue in December 1953. However, she did not pose willingly. The magazine's founder, Hugh Hefner, purchased a number of nude snapshots of Monroe taken by a seedy photographer before she became a movie star, and have proceeded to publish them without Marilyn's permission or knowledge, a move that mortified the actress and threatened her career. I never even received a thank you from all those who made millions off the photos, she was quoted as saying in the book, Marilyn, Her Life in Her Own Words. I even had to buy a copy of the magazine to see myself in it. One could say that Playboy's entire enterprise was launched on the back of Marilyn Monroe's nude body, and by the unscrupulous hands of Hugh Hefner. When Hef died in 2017, he was interred at the Westwood Cemetery in Hollywood, in a crypt they bought directly next to Marilyn Monroe's, so that he and Marilyn would be side by side for eternity, despite the fact that he never even met her, and yet made a fortune off her without her consent. Perhaps the impetus for a deadly karmic curse, if there ever was one. Number 2. Demon versus Rapper. Sometimes the victim of a curse may bring it upon themselves. Case in point, rapper Post Malone. Long a fan of the paranormal, in 2018, Malone accepted an invitation to appear on the television show Ghost Adventures. The episode featured a trip to Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum, a Las Vegas sideshow which houses Bagans' impressive collection of supernatural objects and dark memorabilia. Inside, you'll find Charles Manson's television, the rocking chair that inspired the movie The Conjuring, and the transaxle supposedly once housed in the body of James Dean's ill-fated Porsche Spider. Check out our video on 3 deadly haunted cars for more on that terrifying story. But one particular object in Bagans' vast collection is a Dybbuk box, a wine cabinet said to contain a demonic spirit from Jewish folklore. The story behind the box is a little murky, with the original owner, Kevin Manis, once recanting his version of its supernatural origin. Regardless, producer Sam Raimi did go on to produce a 2012 movie called Possession that is inspired by the Dybbuk box's demonic history. In 2016, Bagan purchased the box to add to his eclectic collection and continues to relate its story to anyone he specifically invites to see the box up close. The legend goes that there is a demon in the box that attaches itself to anyone who opens the box and peers inside. Then the demon stays with that person, waiting for the moment when that person commits a sin. Only after the subject of the demon's interest commits the sin can the demon gain enough spiritual strength to attack that person as a punishment. Over superstar Post Malone, who was facing the box when Bagan opened it during Ghost Adventures, the Dybbuk is probably not the type of demon you want to have on your shoulder. Especially when you live the wild life of one of the world's top music stars. According to the show's producer, at the moment Malone came in contact with the box, a glowing aura could be seen on the videotape of the encounter. Sensing enough was enough, Malone bolted from the room displaying the box. But perhaps the damage was already done. Malone's episode of Ghost Adventures was taped in June 2018. The first appearance of the Dybbuk demon occurred only weeks later when, according to Malone's friend DJ Smitty, the rapper began complaining of mysterious bite marks up and down his arm, even though he had been alone on his tour bus at the time. Malone began to suspect that the Dybbuk box had something to do with the bites, and his suspicions were confirmed on August 21, 2018, when the private Gulfstream jet Malone was flying in had two tires explode in flight, prompting a harrowing emergency landing as smoke filled the cabin. 2 weeks later, while driving in his Rolls-Royce Wrath, Malone was T-boned at an intersection in West Hollywood. And though he was not harmed, he was shocked to soon learn that while he was dealing with the fallout from the car accident, thieves broke into his former home. Malone was not there, but security cameras caught the thieves calling out for Malone and searching the house trying to find him, perhaps to do him harm. A year later, on New Year's Eve 2019, while performing live on ABC's Countdown show, Malone fell off the stage and into the crowd. After we opened this Dybbuk box, Malone told Seth Meyers in 2021, it was really, really odd stuff. Unfortunately for Malone, the odd stuff didn't stop there. Even 3 years after his experience with the Dybbuk box at Zach Bagans' museum, it seems Malone may still be haunted by the demon in charge of counting his sins. As recently as September 2022, Post Malone had to seek medical attention after falling into an open trap door on stage in St. Louis, Missouri. Doctors diagnosed him with a fractured rib and forced him to cancel his tour dates for a month. When he finally made it back on the stage in Atlanta, Georgia on October 19, 2022, Malone fell into yet another hole in the stage, this time twisting his ankle. In response to his woes since his encounter with the Dybbuk box, Malone once tweeted, "Why does God hate me?" The answer, however, may not lie with God at all, but rather a demon bent on retribution for his indiscretions. Number 1. Development Hell. The discovery came on a Wednesday. Around 4:30 p.m. on March 26, 1969, a police cruiser in Biloxi, Mississippi pulled up behind an idling automobile parked on the side of the road. As they got out to investigate, the cops immediately noticed a rubber garden hose attached to the vehicle's exhaust pipe, with the other end of the hose having been wedged in the driver's side window. The occupant of the car, who the coroner later said died by suicide, was 32-year-old Ken Toole. New Orleans officers soon knocked on the door of the home of the man's parents, who were overcome with grief. Their son, they said, had been on a road trip hoping to get over a bout of depression. Ken was a writer, his mother explained, and he had boxes of manuscripts in his room, but all of them had been turned down by publishers. One editor called his latest comic novel utterly pointless. It seems Ken just couldn't see a future in which he'd become a published writer, which led him down that side road and into the afterlife. He had left his latest manuscript atop his dresser in his childhood bedroom at home. But Ken's mother, Thelma, had always believed in her son. She knew he was a great writer if only she could get his work into the right hands. Having left Ken's room exactly as he left it, Thelma eventually summoned the courage to pick up his last manuscript, collecting dust on his armoire. For the next 10 years, she wrote letter after letter, trying to get the book published. Then, in the late 1970s, it finally landed on the desk of editor Walker Percy, who saw promise in the work. He polished it and printed it and sent it to bookstores. That novel, A Confederacy of Dunces, would win the Pulitzer Prize. And it would make Ken Toole, John Kennedy Toole, one of the most celebrated American authors of the 20th century. A decade after his death, the New Republic called it one of the funniest books ever written. So it's no wonder that even before the book hit stores, a young executive at Fox Studios, Scott Kramer, scooped up the film rights to Dunces. In turn, he got the king of late night, Johnny Carson, to come aboard as a producer. Johnny said that he thought that comedian Richard Pryor might be right to star. To Saturday Night alum John Belushi, however, that casting wasn't right at all. The main character in Dunces is Ignatius J. Riley, an overweight, overeducated, and underemployed 30-something. Not unlike Belushi himself at the time. He convinced Carson that he, not Pryor, should be the star of the film. And he almost got his wish. On June 9, 1980, Pryor set himself on fire while trying to freebase cocaine. Publicly, it was ruled an accident, but family members later said they believed it was a suicide attempt. With Pryor out of the picture, as it were, Belushi got himself cast as the 300-pound hero of Dunces. He even began to pack on pounds to more fit with Riley's described bulk. Then, in 1982, with filming scheduled to begin in New Orleans, Josine Bold, the director of Louisiana's Film Commission, was shot dead by her husband in a murder-suicide. As the Film Commission regrouped, the movie was temporarily put on hold, which gave John Belushi, who had a history of his own substance abuse, just enough time to overdose in Hollywood's Chateau Marmont Hotel at the age of 32. Soon after, Johnny Carson let his option on the script lapse, and the film went into what Hollywood insiders call development hell. Over the next few years, a few more attempts were made to get Dunces on film. Producer Steve Tisch picked up the rights in 1983. Sadly, his daughter would take her own life. Thelma Toole died in 1984 after an unexpected illness. In 1988, director John Waters was hired to direct a reimagined movie of the book. He even had his Ignatius, comic actor and singer Divine, star of his cult classic film Pink Flamingos. But Divine passed away suddenly in his sleep in March of that year. He was 42 years old, putting the project's future in question. In 1993, Paramount Pictures bought the film rights to the book for upwards of $3 million and tapped Groundhog Day director Harold Ramis to head it up. Ramis thought that his old SCTV friend and co-star John Candy would make a perfect Ignatius. The Canadian comic actor had not only the heft, but the acting chops to do it. But Candy's sudden heart attack death just a year later put the movie back on the shelf. In the mid-90s, former NBC executive wonderkin Brandon Tartikoff came aboard as one of the film's producers. Thanks to his great relationship with NBC, he thought SNL superstar Chris Farley would be the perfect choice for the lead. Would Farley be interested in taking his first serial comic starring role? Farley was more than interested. But sadly, before production got any further, Tartikoff died of Hodgkin lymphoma in August 1997. He was 48 years old. 4 months later, Farley suffered his own overdose at the age of 33. A year later, Steven Soderbergh and Scott Rudin launched a lawsuit against Paramount over rights issues with the book. The suit languished in courts for years, until around 2005, when the lawsuit was settled. Plans were being made to restart the production of the film, starring another SNL alum, Will Ferrell. But the story of a confederacy of dunces is set in New Orleans. And Hurricane Katrina that summer decimated the city and made of the book's real-life locations. After that, the idea of turning Toole's book into a movie had been hanging around Hollywood for a quarter century. And by that time, the movie had so much bad mojo around it, no one could ever pull together enough money from financiers to get it going again. Harold Ramis, once a champion of the film, died unexpectedly in 2014 of an autoimmune disorder. As of 2012, it's estimated a confederacy of dunces has gone through no less than 24 producers, half a dozen scripts, and earned millions of dollars via rights and options. For believers that the film is cursed, however, they're happy to let well enough alone and leave this project in developmental hell, good and dead. And maybe that's what the spirit of John Kennedy Toole would have wanted after all. The deaths of Belushi and Candy add powerful aura to the curse, one of Dunce's many screenwriters, Stephen Fry, told The Guardian in 2018, which the life and unhappy death of its young author had already caused to surround the book. Maybe it's possible that the same demons that plagued Ken Toole in 1969 and caused him to take his own life are continuing to protect his legacy from the other side by ensuring that a possible film adaptation remains very much dead. Perhaps producers might do well to remember what author Stephen King once wrote in another kind of book: sometimes dead is better. Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you found it interesting. If you did find it interesting, please make sure you subscribe. We'll have a new video about the paranormal every week. If you just discovered this channel, please make sure you check out our other channel, Criminally Listed. We have over 325 videos featuring bizarre but true crime stories. You can find it at youtube.com/criminallylisted. We also have a podcast about cold cases that were eventually solved called Criminally Listed Presents Into the Killing. You can find it on Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music, and anywhere you find great podcasts. But that's all for today. Thanks again for watching.